Hello, my name is Sarita and I'm speaking to you today from Soulhenge. And I'm here to help you understand the truth about who you are. Now, one of the truths about who you are is that you are a multi-dimensional being. And so what I wanted to share with you today was a meditation practice which is going to allow you to experience your multi-dimensionality in terms of working with the third, fourth and fifth dimensions. And this is because the fourth and fifth dimensions we now have instant access to if we choose. So basically you are a third dimensional being, you're living in 3D, and right above you is the fourth dimension, and then above that is the fifth dimension. And what's been happening is that we have been transcending ourselves as a species. We have been evolving into the fifth dimension. And many people think, and I would agree, that we are already in the fifth dimension if we choose to be so. And what I mean by that is, what's happening at the moment is that all of these dimensions are kind of all here in the now, and we have access to them through choice. So at the moment, most of us are conditioned to believe and act and be in the reality of third dimensional reality. But actually, we have been being affected by fourth dimensional reality because we're in direct relation to it for a long time. And our relationship with fourth dimensional reality is what's now allowing us to transcend ourselves into the fifth dimension. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you the differences between these realities so that you can get an idea of what each of those consciousnesses represents. And what you may perceive as I explain them is that you've actually been moving in and out of these dimensions without even realizing it. So what I'm going to talk about first is the third dimension. So obviously we're in the third dimension, we're on the surface of the earth. And third dimensional reality is a reality which is all about matter. And it's a reality about learning that we have the potential to that we are manifesting, that we can manifest whatever we want in any given moment. But the whole premise of third dimensional reality is really based around things. So we're learning, you know, these methods, you know, that we have control over our manifesting, and we tend to have attachments to outcomes. So we want to manifest things with the intention that things arrive into our manifested reality. And so we're attached to those things. And that's all well and good, and that's great. But the problem with this reality is that we are attaching to things and working in relation to things that are external to ourselves. And that mentality is, in effect, a state of victimhood. Because if you have to rely on things that are external to you, you are not in your own sovereign power. So this is a very generalization, by the way, but that's a generalization about what's going on in third dimensional reality. We're kind of here to learn that we are manifesting our own reality. And we're learning that by manifesting what we think are things, we're bringing things that are external to ourselves into our manifested reality, okay? So we're really placing our attachment onto objects. And you can see that we're living, you know, generally in a very materialistic society. And this is a matter-based dimension. So everything is what we perceive as real. You know, many people think that there is only matter. They just can't even conceive that there's energy and things like that. So this is a very matter-orientated dimension. So that's the third dimension. Now, fourth dimensional reality is essentially mass consciousness. And it's a very dualistic dimension because it works around the premises of black, white, negative, positive, light, heavy. It's all about contrast. That's the nature of the fourth dimension. And it's mass consciousness, because every time you or I or anyone has a thought, we create a thought form. It's an energetic form. And if it's not manifested into a thing, into an object, it has to go somewhere. And it goes into the fourth dimension. So the fourth dimension is essentially an amalgamation of all of the thoughts and feelings that we have as a species. And it's like this big umbrella over our heads. And the whole thing with mass consciousness is that whether we are conscious of it or not, we are being directly affected by it all of the time. And so it's very important to understand this and to understand what that dimension feels like. Because if you are experiencing an emotion, particularly a negative emotion, it's really important to know whether that's your emotion or you're feeling it from the fourth dimension. And I'll give you an example. This morning at about 5 o'clock in the morning, really early, I woke up with just total anxiety. Total anxiety. I was really worrying about everything, everything just arrived. Worrying about money, worrying about, I don't know, just everything. And my brain was just going, blah, 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 you know how it does when you're worrying. And I stopped and I just went, whoa, is this mine or is this external to me? Because this is the way I'm beginning to understand things now. And I sat with this for a while and I just said, you know what? This isn't mine. This isn't mine. This is anxiety and fear that I am picking up from fourth dimensional reality, which is mass consciousness. Because obviously the work that I do, and hopefully the work that you're all doing, is making you more hypersensitive. It's making you aware of your sixth sense and your connection to all things. And so that was and as soon as I understood that, the anxiety started to go because I realized it wasn't mine. And because I'd been asleep, I probably just kind of allowed it in and whatever. And it's really important to understand how mass consciousness can directly affect you if you're not aware of it. And this is why the more meditation you do and the more self-aware you become, the more sovereign you become, the more you can choose to allow mass consciousness to affect you or not. So what happened to me this morning is I just made an active choice that I wasn't going to allow it to affect me. It wasn't mine. That's why I recognized it wasn't mine. But like 5 years ago, I would have just been anxious all day long thinking that it was me and those were my worries and my problems. And I had to really dive into all of that kind of pain. Because the whole thing is, if you look at our species as a whole, mass consciousness is in a state of fear. It's predominantly a fear-based dimensional state of being that is in a canopy, which is over us basically, and a canopy over us. And we are moving out of that, but there are still a lot of people who are very invested in fear, and we are being affected by all of those people. And so the good part about fourth dimensional reality, and the reason why it's there, is to teach us that we are all interconnected. Because for us to transcend as a species, to evolve, we need to come into a really clear state of awareness that we're one thing, that we're one species, that we are a collective consciousness. And our evolution has been coming out of being separate into coming into being one. And it's a really important evolutionary lesson for us as a species. So mass consciousness is this kind of double-edged dualistic sword. It's great. It teaches us we're all one because we're being affected by it. But also it's awful because it lives in this kind of dualistic program where things are really negative or good. There are these kind of opposites, and the negatives have their place. They show us what we're not. They're a real learning tool. So that's mass consciousness, and that's the fourth dimension. And so what we're doing as a species is we're moving into the fifth dimension. And in order to move into the fifth dimension, you need to be able to move through the fourth dimension as a sovereign being. And I'm going to talk about sovereignty in a minute. But for now, I'm going to explain the fifth dimension. Now, the fifth dimension is just beautiful. So what we're moving into is the fifth dimensional reality. And this is heart-centered, present moment awareness. It's basically a transcended state for us, because we've come from third dimensional reality, into understanding that we can be heart-based beings. And I'm not sure yet, but I think in the beginning, and obviously now we're experiencing this, being in the fifth dimension is going to appear solidish to us, and eventually what's going to happen is we're going to become more energetic in form. This is what I feel is going to happen. And so obviously you can imagine when you're in this heart-centered state of being, everything is easy. You accept everything around you in the understanding that you are a soul having a human experience. So transcending into the fifth dimensional reality is really where we all want to get to. And if we can all transcend into fifth dimensional reality as a collective, things are going to be really beautiful, because you're not trying to manifest from things external to you. You are living in heart-centered awareness. And when you're in heart-centered awareness, you're aware of everybody else as a collective, and you would never harm somebody else, because in doing so, you would understand you were harming yourself, and that would just be dumb. So it's a really beautiful dimension, and that's what we're moving into. And as I said, what's happening at the moment is we have the opportunity to be fluid between these three states in accordance to your own evolution and your own self-awareness. And we've all experienced what being in the fifth dimension is. You know, if you do, I don't know, Tibetan heart meditation or Joe Dispenza or any great meditation which is heart-centered, and you begin to feel that love and gratitude and that connection to all things, you're in the fifth dimension. That's what it feels like all of the time. And the other thing about the fifth dimension, which is really fun, is that you begin to learn to manifest instantaneously. And that's why we've had to go from third dimension to fourth to fifth, because we've had to have this manifestation time lag in order to learn what we don't want to manifest, in order to be able to come into our hearts, to learn what we do want to be able to manifest as a true expression of what we are, which is unconditional love. So that's what being in the fifth dimension is. And so what this meditation is going to allow you to do is to move into the different dimensions. And, you know, obviously we're going to start in third dimension, you're going to move into fourth and fifth. And you're going to be able to just observe what it is to be in those dimensions. And the reason I'm going to, you know, move you through this meditation is so that when you feel things in your day-to-day life, you'll be able to know whether they're resonating with fourth dimensional reality or fifth dimensional reality. And you're going to be able to tune yourself accordingly and go, oh, I'm really in fifth dimensional reality state of being right now, and I'm going to try and stay here as long as I can. Or like me, if you wake up in the morning and suddenly feeling anxious, you can go, hey, wait a minute, I think I'm stuck in fourth dimension, so I'm just going to pull myself out of that and choose something else. And it's all about choice. And choice is all about awareness. And awareness is all about knowledge. So if through this meditation, you are going to go into these dimensions and feel what they feel like, so that your knowledge of what each dimension is more clear to you. And then you're going to be able to see how that is happening in your daily life and what you can do about it. Right, so now I'm going to talk about sovereignty, because in order to be able to transcend fourth dimensional reality, you need to be a sovereign being. We don't need to be, but you know, I'm just telling you it's going to be helpful. So what I mean by sovereignty is to come into a state where you are so utterly in tune with yourself that you will not accept something from anybody else, whether it's mentally, energetically, emotionally, or physically, unless you like it. So you don't just accept opinions of others. You don't allow things that are not your vibrational equal to come into your reality. You are so centered and aware of who you are that nothing can move you from that, and nor should it. And so what this means is, as you go about your daily life, and as you're going to go through these dimensions that I'm going to take you, you're going to move through the fourth dimension, and you're going to be in such a sovereign state of being, because I'm going to set you up that way, that you're going to be able to observe the fourth dimension without being affected by it, which is really important, because when you observe something, you are increasing your knowledge exponentially, much more than if you sort of saw something awful and you dove into the drama of that. Because as I said, fourth dimension is, you know, it can be a dark place. So if you're going to move through fourth dimension, you really want to be in your own sovereign power. And there are many ways that you can hold on to your sovereign power and come into it in every moment of every day. And one of the ways that I'm going to teach you today is I'm going to put you in an energetic form of an octahedron, because what that's going to allow you to do is to see what is yours and what is beyond you that is nothing to do with you, in a way. Because obviously there's you, and we are co-creating with everybody else. But what I want you to do with this energetic form is come into your own state of sovereignty, so that you can move through the dimensions as a sovereign being. So that's the first part of the meditation. I'm going to set you up in an octahedron. And this is an octahedron. It's an energetic form that I picked up from Jim Self. And if you have a chance, go and do his present moment awareness technique, which is on my YouTube channel, because it is amazing, and I do it every single morning now. And so basically an octahedron is like two pyramids. It's a right way up pyramid and an upside down pyramid, like that. And you're going to imagine that you are encased in this big octahedron, and at each point of the octahedron, so you've got a point above you and a point below you, and then you've got a point in front of you at stomach height, a point behind you at stomach height, and two different points, one to your left and one to your right. Those 6 points are what hold all the lines of the octahedron together, obviously, because we're going to draw this solid around us. And what you're going to do is you're going to imagine that at each point is an energetic rose, okay? And this is because the rose has a real frequency of love and acceptance. And so you're going to be within this form, and this form is not to protect you. I really want you to understand this. I don't want to put you in a form that's going to protect you, because if you need protecting, you're a victim. And you're not a victim. If you're a sovereign being, you don't need protection. You're a sovereign being. Your vibration and your light is enough. Your knowledge of who you are, your self-awareness is enough. You don't need protection. And we're in this third, fourth, and fifth dimensional reality, so we can interact with people at will, using our free will, using our choices. So it's not a form of protection. It's just to show you what is yours kind of physically and energetically, and what is beyond you. So what is everybody else's. So I'm going to set you up in this form. And then what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that we are kind of we're ascending as if we were in an elevator. So you're going to imagine yourself within the form ascending, and you're going to go up, 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 up through the building you're in until you reach the boundary of the layer of fourth dimensional reality. And you're going to go up into fourth dimensional reality, and then I'm going to leave you there for a bit. And you're going to look out through your form and observe what you are seeing. And I'm not going to tell you what me and my group all saw. I'm going to share that with you at the end, so I'm not influencing you, and you can see if your findings correlate with our findings, as we had a lot of similarities in my group when we did this. So basically you're going to go up, you're going to land in fourth dimensional reality, you're going to observe what's going on around you, okay? And I'm going to leave you there for a bit. Now, fourth dimensional reality works in layers, and it goes from dense, because obviously as you go up through the layers, the vibrations are getting lighter. So I'm going to move you up again into another section of fourth dimensional reality, you know, a higher layer, and you're going to observe again. And then what we're going to do finally is we're going to go up into fifth dimensional reality. And again, I'm going to leave you there, and you're just going to observe and see what it's like to be in the fifth dimension. And then once we've done all of that, I'm going to drop you all the way back down so your consciousness can descend and land with you in this third dimensional body of yours. And then I'm going to bring you back into the room. So there you go. That's what we're going to do, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're ready, then we're going to begin. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take a breath in and out, and just let go of this conversation. And you're going to begin to follow your breath. And just allow your breath to connect you to yourself. And just feeling that breath moving through your body. And in the darkness behind your eyelids, with your breath, just knowing that the breath and the darkness are always here for you. Your connection to yourself and to the source. And what you're going to do now is you're going to begin to create with me the energetic form of an octahedron. So I want you to imagine that above you, you have placed an energetic rose above your head. And then below your feet, another energetic rose. One rose in front of you at stomach height, about an arm's length away from you. Another rose behind you at stomach height, an arm's length away from you. And then two more roses, one to your left and one to your right, again at waist height, equidistant away from you. So basically you now have 4 roses around your waist and one above and one below you. And what I want you to do now is I want you to imagine that starting from the rose in front of you, you are drawing a line in your mind's eye which meets the rose at your right. And then you carry on with this line connecting to the rose behind you. Continue the line to meet the rose to your left. And then carrying on that line until it reconnects to the rose in front of you. So you are now surrounded by an energetic square. And what I want you to do now is from each of those roses in the square, I want you to draw lines downwards so that they meet at a point of the energetic rose below your feet, so that your lower body becomes encased in an upside down pyramid. So just drawing those lines down, allowing them to meet, and seeing that upside down pyramid. And now we're going to draw lines from the roses around our waist upwards till they meet the energetic rose above your head, so that the top half of your body is encased in a right way up pyramid. So drawing the lines and seeing that pyramid. And so now you are encased within an energetic form of an octahedron. This octahedron is not to protect you. This octahedron is to allow you to feel and see what is yours and what is beyond you in the great theatre of life laid out for your amusement. So I want you to just feel how you feel now you are encased in this energetic platonic solid. And what we're going to do now is you're going to begin to move upwards, encased within this form, until we reach the fourth dimension. So I want you to imagine now that you are lifting off the ground as if in an elevator. So feeling yourself within the form, going up and up and up until you meet the ceiling of the room you are in. And melting through that ceiling, you're going to continue going up and up until you are higher than the building that you are in. And you're going to carry on going up, and you're looking down and you can see the building that you were in. And as you keep ascending, you see the whole village that you are in, or the town. And you're going up and up and up. And now you see the whole country that you live in below you. And you're going up and up and up. And the whole world is below you. And you're still going up and up and up. And now I want you to look up within your octahedron form. And you begin to perceive above you a shimmery ceiling of sorts. And this is the entrance to the fourth dimension. So you're going up and up, and you arrive at this ceiling, the boundary, and you begin to move through it and arrive into the fourth dimension. And you're just going to pause here for a moment. And you're going to begin to look around this fourth dimension and see, observe what is going on here. So just observing everything that's going on around you. What does it feel like to be in this dimension? What can you see? What do you sense? And now take yourself a little higher, more deeply into this dimension, moving up through some of the layers, and pause again. What are you seeing now within this dimension? And now we are going to ascend into the 5th dimension. So feel yourself once again going up and up and up until you reach the boundary between the 4th and the 5th dimension. And then moving through that boundary and arriving into the 5th dimension. And pausing here and looking around. What do you see? How does it feel? Just allowing yourself to observe this dimension. And now it is time to ascend down into 3rd dimensional reality. So beginning to feel yourself dropping within your energetic form. Going down, down, arriving in the 4th dimension. Down, down, down. Arriving in the 3rd dimension, far above the earth, carrying down, 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 coming nearer and nearer back to yourself in this dimension, above the town that you've come from, now above the building, moving through the building, arriving at the ceiling above your head, and now landing with you, allowing your consciousness to land with you in this 3rd dimensional reality. And keeping your energetic form, gently open your eyes and come back into the room. So there you go. Hopefully you all noticed things in the different dimensions. And as I said, when I did it with my group, we all had really similar correlations. So see if this resonates with you. When we were all in the 4th dimension, it felt very murky to us. There was a lot of chaos. Many of us saw things like storms and, you know, fires. I saw a lot of things like the Industrial Revolution and the slave trade. And I saw pockets of light as well, you know, things like dolphins and streams and rivers of light within there. But primarily within the 4th dimension, many of us felt it was chaotic and dark. And then when we were all in the 5th dimension, it was very luminous to us, and there was a lot of blue and white lights. Many of us saw beings of light. 2 of us saw welcoming committees of these beautiful beings of light welcoming us, and there was just this overwhelming energy of heart-centered love that we all felt. And we didn't want to come back from the fifth dimension, so I don't know what your experience was, but I just wanted to share with you some of our experiences. And what I felt personally from the fifth dimension is that it was like it was slowly coming into focus. It's like, for me, the fourth dimension feels chaotic and blurry, like it's coming, like I can see the images sharply, but they're coming out of focus. And the fifth dimension feels very light, as if things are beginning to come into focus. And I wasn't the only person that felt that when they were in the fifth dimension. But there were a few people who just saw geometric shapes or just saw colors or patterns, but they did correlate with what the others saw. So they saw, you know, darker, chaotic geometric shapes in the fourth dimension, and then luminous, more beautiful geometric shapes in the fifth dimension. So however it manifests for you is your experience of what those dimensions are. And what I would say with you is, as you are going around your daily life, notice when you get different feelings. So, for example, if you're finding yourself in a meditation or really in an inspired state of being or super happy, ask yourself, what does this feel like? Does this feel like you're in the fifth dimension? Because as I said now, we've got this opportunity to move through the dimensions at will, with our free will, with our choices. So it's really an opportunity for you to observe and feel what each dimension feels like and attune yourself to the dimension that you want to be in. And so it's an opportunity to keep choosing fifth dimensional reality, because that is going to serve you in the long run. So I hope that that meditation has just given you a flavor of things that you're already feeling, and so that you know what dimensional reality you're in at any given moment. So there you go. I hope that was interesting for you. It certainly was for us. And if you like this video, please like it. And if you'd like to receive free meditations every week, then please just subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for listening.